Sit in my seat and refuse to move? Enjoy being uncomfortable. So this happened last week, and I'm still kinda riding the petty satisfaction high. I was flying back to London from Athens after spending some time with my relatives. The trip had been great, but exhausting. You know how visiting family can be. It's food, gossip, emotional landmines, and very little sleep. By the time I got to the airport, I just wanted to zone out and knock out on the flight. It was a late-night flight too, so perfect conditions for a nap. I'd specifically booked a window seat for that exact reason. I wanted to lean my head on the wall, pop in my earbuds, and sleep through the whole thing. But of course, as life loves to remind me, nothing can ever go smoothly. I get to my row, and some dude is already sitting in my seat, the window seat. He's got these massive noise-canceling headphones on, and his head is turned slightly away like he's ignoring the world. At first, I think okay, maybe he just accidentally sat in the wrong seat. No big deal. So I say, "Hey man, I think you're in my seat." No response. I try again a little louder. Still nothing. Alright, maybe the headphones are just that good. So I tap him on the shoulder. Not hard, just enough to get his attention. The dude doesn't flinch. He doesn't even look at me, which would be understandable if he was asleep. But he's not. I can see his eyes are open. He's upright, he's clearly aware. And now I'm like, oh, you're just ignoring me. This dude is straight up pretending I don't exist. I look around for a flight attendant, but none are nearby, and to be completely honest, I'm too tired to turn this into some full-blown dramatic confrontation. So I just swallow it, plop down in the middle seat, and stew in silent rage. And I know what you're thinking. I should have made him move. And yeah, maybe I should have. But I was already drained, and the thought of dealing with the whole, "Can I see your boarding pass? Sir, you need to move" circus just felt like too much. So there I was, squashed in the middle seat, elbows tucked in tight, my annoyance bubbling like hot soup on low heat. A few minutes go by and the aisle seat is still empty. I'm kinda hoping no one shows up, so at least I can spread out a bit. But of course, nope. A young woman shows up and takes the aisle seat. She seems chill, gives me a polite smile and sits down. Then I notice she's chatting across the row. Her friend is sitting in the window seat right behind us. They're doing that leaning over the seat, loud talking thing. It's annoying, but I let it slide. I'm too tired to care. And then comes the twist. The woman turns to me and asks, "Hey, do you mind switching seats with my friend, so we can sit together?" Now normally I might have said no. I hate switching seats. I paid for my seat, I want my seat. But in this case, oh, I saw an opportunity. A golden, shining, glorious opportunity for revenge. So the woman's asking me if I can switch with her friend, the one sitting in the window seat directly behind us. I pause for half a second, and before I even give her an answer, I turn slightly to glance at the friend she's talking about. And that's when I realize this isn't just some regular seat switch. Her friend is big. Like, very big. I'm a heavy dude myself, I get it, no shame, but her friend is at least twice my width. She's already spilling into the seat beside her and kind of awkwardly leaning toward the window to compensate. I glance back at the guy who stole my seat, and this man is now watching me. Full eye contact. Suddenly he looks nervous, like he knows what's coming. I swear to you, this man had the face of a kid who just realized he kicked the wrong beehive. I look back at the woman and say, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Smiled and everything. Real polite. I get up, grab my bag, and as I'm about to move into the row behind us, I watch headphone guy's eyes widen just a little. He realizes now, if he just moved when I asked, he'd be the one switching seats. He would have gotten to swap with the aisle seat and avoid what's about to happen. Instead, he's about to be pressed up against the plain wall with a whole lot of human on his lap. I slide into the aisle seat behind them and nod at the woman's friend, who gives me a warm thank you as she heads over to sit next to her friend in my original seat. Well, not really my seat anymore. That joyride belonged to Mr. Noise-canceling headphones now. I peek over the back of the seat, just casually watching the dominoes fall. As the big lady settles in, it's immediately clear that the space just isn't built for her. She sinks into the window seat and her body spills slightly into the middle. Not in a dramatic way, just the way things go when airplane seats are basically built for mannequins. And guess who's now in the middle seat? Yeah, my guy. And his face. Oh man, you ever see someone regret every decision they made in the last 10 minutes? That was him. Sitting there, shoulders pinched in, nowhere to lean, no armrest access, trapped between the wall and someone who literally has no choice but to invade his space. He looked like a cartoon character jammed into a vending machine. And I was loving every second of it. I didn't even try to hide my smirk. I turned on my music, leaned back, and just let it happen. That was karma. Pure, distilled, perfectly timed seat switch karma. Served ice cold at 30,000 feet. He didn't say a word the whole time. Not to me, not to the woman next to him. Just stared ahead, possibly questioning his entire existence. Now, let me be real for a second, I wasn't trying to be cruel. I'm not the kind of guy who sees someone overweight and thinks, oh yeah, this'll ruin your day. Nah, that's not what this was about. It was about respect. About basic human decency. I paid for that window seat. I picked it for a reason. And this man? He took it, ignored me, and pretended like I didn't even exist. So yeah, I wasn't gonna cry a single tear for his squished little nightmare. The next hour or so was pure, quiet bliss. Not because I was particularly comfortable, I was still in an aisle seat, after all, but because I knew. I just knew he was feeling every second of it. At one point I leaned slightly to the side and peeked through the crack between the seats ahead of me. I could just make out his shoulder practically glued to the plain wall, his head tilted awkwardly because he had no space to move. The larger woman next to him was doing her best to stay within her lane, but there just wasn't enough room. She was clearly uncomfortable too, probably feeling self-conscious, but he didn't even try to hide the fact that he was miserable. And I'm sitting there thinking, you did this to yourself, man. You had an easy out. All you had to do was move when I asked you nicely. If you didn't want the middle seat, you could have swapped with the woman like I did, and I'd be the one jammed into the fuselage while you kicked back on the aisle. But no. You wanted to be slick. You wanted to play the if I ignore it, it's not my problem game. Well, enjoy the consequences, champ. At one point the flight attendants came through with drinks and snacks, and I noticed him trying to take the cup with one hand curled in because he couldn't even raise his elbow properly. The tray table looked like it could barely fold down because of how tight his arms were pressed in. It was like watching someone try to eat while stuck in a broom closet. Meanwhile, me? I had full elbow freedom. I leaned into the aisle a bit, popped open my water bottle, put on a podcast, and sat back like I was in business class. And every now and then, just for fun, I'd look over and make eye contact. Not for long. Just long enough for him to know that I knew. He refused to move out of my seat, and now he was living out the consequences in real time. There's something beautifully poetic about that, isn't there? About halfway through the flight, I shifted my seat and stretched my legs a bit. It's a late flight, and I was hoping to maybe catch a nap, but the adrenaline from watching this passive-aggressive revenge play out is keeping me wide awake. I'm not even mad anymore. I'm entertained. I glance ahead again, subtle, casual. And yup, my guy is still living in hell. He's got that stiff, dead-straight posture that screams, I can't move an inch. His head is tilted toward the window like he's trying to disappear into it. The woman next to him, bless her, is trying her best to shrink herself, but it's just not possible in those tiny seats. She's got a thick sweater on and is hugging her arms close, but I can see her shoulder nudging into his space every time she shifts, even slightly. And this man? Bro is frozen. Like he's trying to teleport into another dimension. He's not reading, not watching anything, not even pretending to sleep. Just staring straight ahead, lips pressed into a thin line, like he's mentally drafting a Yelp review for the laws of physics. And I'm sitting behind him, arms free, aisle access, sipping my ginger ale with the satisfaction of a man who knows he chose peace, got denied, and now watches karma do what karma does best. At some point, the woman next to him tries to be nice. She quietly asks if he's okay. I hear her voice float back to me, soft, polite, genuinely trying. But he just grunts. Doesn't even look at her. And I get it. Dude's pissed. Not just at me, not at her. At himself. Because when you think about it, all he had to do was take his own damn seat. That's it. We wouldn't be here. He could have been on the aisle, stretching out, earbuds in, living the good life. Instead, he tried to ghost me with his fancy headphones and if I don't make eye contact, it's not my problem attitude. But planes? Planes are the great equalizer. There's no ghosting someone in row 26 when they've got a boarding pass and a point to prove. And I'm not gonna lie, watching this unfold was better than any in-flight movie. This wasn't just about one petty seat swap. It was about cause and effect. Choices and consequences. The unspoken law of don't be a jerk. Every bump of turbulence made him jostle slightly more into the wall. Every shift from the woman beside him squeezed him a little tighter. It was like the universe was tucking him in, snug as a bug in a seat-sized coffin. I even caught the flight attendant giving him a sympathetic glance at one point, like she knew he was having a rough go of it. But hey, not my problem. I offered a clean, drama-free start. He rolled the dice. And now? Now he's paying for it in sweaty silence, pinned to the wall of an Airbus at cruising altitude. Couldn't have scripted it better myself. So, we're maybe an hour out from London. The lights in the cabin are dimmed and most people have settled in. You know that weird hush that settles on late-night flights? That hum of the engines, a few soft coughs, rustling snack wrappers, it's almost peaceful. And then there's me, chilling in my new aisle seat, sipping on the last of my ginger ale, feeling like I just won some low-stakes, high-satisfaction version of Survivor. The guy in my seat? Still frozen like a statue. I don't think he's moved more than an inch since takeoff. The woman beside him had nodded off, her thing, head tilted slightly toward him, and her arm was gently brushing against his. I could see the sheer discomfort radiating off him like heat waves off asphalt. He was basically hovering in his own seat at this point, clenched and bitter, like he was holding a silent grudge against the laws of geometry. And I was loving every second of it. Not in a cruel way, but in that this is what happens when you try to play dumb with the wrong person kind of way. I started thinking about how the whole situation could have been different. If he had just acknowledged me when I first got to the row, hell, if he had just taken out his headphones, made eye contact, and said, "Oh sorry, my bad," I probably would have let it go. Maybe even offered to switch seats if he really wanted the window. I'm not a monster. But he tried to pull that ignore and win move, and on a plane? Where you're stuck in a metal tube with no escape and way too much time to think. Bad play. This flight turned into his personal think piece. Now, I wasn't trying to make it a full-on scene or anything. I didn't gloat. Didn't speak to him. I just let him sit there with his life choices and a full-grown adult half invading his space because he wanted to claim a seat that didn't belong to him. And I swear, the moment the captain came on the intercom and announced our descent, I heard him exhale like he'd been holding his breath for the last 2 hours. Like he was finally being released from captivity. But the funniest part? Even then he didn't say a word to me. Not a glare. Not a passive-aggressive sigh. Nothing. Which tells me everything. Because that silence? That wasn't ignorance or arrogance. That was pure, uncut regret. That was a man fully aware he'd made a terrible decision and had to sit in it literally. As we touched down and the seatbelt signs chimed off, I stayed seated for a second, just watching him. He was up the second it was allowed, practically elbowing past the woman to get to the aisle. He didn't even wait for his row to be called. He just wanted out. And I sat there letting the moment soak in like a silent little victory lap. Didn't have to raise my voice. Didn't argue. Didn't even need a flight attendant. Just one simple move and the universe handled the rest. The seatbelt sign dings off and people are already reaching up, scrambling for their overhead bags like they're racing for the last lifeboat on the Titanic. I'm still sitting, arms crossed, just vibing, watching Mr. Window Seat Ignorer practically leap into the aisle. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but there's a particular walk of shame unique to airplanes. You know the one, when someone knows they screwed up early in the flight and now has to shuffle down that narrow corridor pretending like they didn't just spend 2 hours marinating in poor decisions. That was him. He didn't even look back. Not at me, not at the woman he was squashed against. He just grabbed his backpack with a bit too much force, like it had personally betrayed him, and shoved his way into the line of disembarking passengers. Man looked like he was sprinting toward redemption. Meanwhile, I take my time. I nod at the woman who was in the aisle seat, who gives me a kind little smile, probably thinking I was just being generous by agreeing to the seat swap. Nah, that wasn't generosity. That was strategic warfare. We step off the plane into the cool, stale air of the jet bridge, and I spot him ahead, head down, walking fast, trying not to make eye contact with anyone. I almost wanted to call out, "Hey, comfy seat," but I'm not that bold. I like my revenge quiet. Let it stew. Let it last. As we move into the terminal, I realize something weird. I'm not even mad anymore. I was furious when I first saw him sitting there, headphones on, pretending I didn't exist. But now, I feel amazing. Light, like I just dropped emotional baggage at the gate. Because justice didn't come in the form of yelling or complaining or dragging a flight attendant into the mix. It came through the natural order. A little inconvenience, a simple seat swap, and karma did the rest with surgical precision. I walk through customs, still smirking to myself, thinking this is going to be my go-to story for the next 5 years. Anytime someone talks about flying, I'm pulling this out like a trophy. You sit in my seat and ignore me? Fine. But you better be ready to pay in legroom, awkward body contact, and 2 hours of silent suffering. And I hope he learned something. Not just about seats or flights or basic decency, but about how the smallest power plays can flip on you hard when you least expect it. Next time, maybe he'll listen. Maybe he'll show a little courtesy. Or maybe he'll just think twice before trying to ghost someone with noise-canceling headphones. Either way, I win. And my petty little heart? Fully satisfied.